The doors of the chamber had not even finished opening when the speaker's voice hit me like a slap. "Representative of Earth, you are late, and you are already in violation." I had not even stepped inside yet. My boots were still on the ramp, the artificial gravity of the chamber pulling at my knees before I had crossed the threshold, and already 9 species were staring down at me as if I had committed a crime just by breathing their recycled air. There was no warm welcome, no polite greeting, nothing. Just accusation. I walked forward anyway. The room was enormous, built for wings and shells and limbs that did not belong to my kind, and the human podium looked like an afterthought bolted onto the floor at the last minute. I stood at it and looked up. "Violation of what, exactly?" I said. "I have been standing on a shuttle for 6 hours. I have not signed anything, broken anything, or touched anything that belongs to this council. So please, tell me what I am guilty of before you decide my sentence." The speaker was a tall being named Threll, with too many limbs and a translator box strapped to his chest that made his voice sound flat and mechanical, stripped of anything human ears would call emotion. "Your people have colonized 6 systems in the Perseus corridor without submitting territorial applications," he said. "Your ships have engaged pirate confederations without requesting council mediation. And twice, your vessels have opened fire on ships flying council-recognized diplomatic markers." "Those markers were stolen," I said. "We confirmed it. Twice, with evidence. Which I am happy to present, if anyone in this room actually wants facts instead of a verdict they already wrote before I arrived." A ripple moved through the gallery. Somewhere behind the Threll, a Vashtar delegate's crystal wings clicked together, sharp and quick, like something grinding its teeth. "You misunderstand the purpose of this hearing," the speaker said. "This is not a trial. This is a correction. Every spacefaring species that has ever joined this council submits to its laws regarding territory, trade, and conflict. This is the price of civilization. Your species has ignored that price for years, and today, that ends." I felt my pulse pick up, not from fear, but from something closer to anger, the kind that comes from being cornered by people who have already decided the outcome. "Let me ask you something," I said. "How many wars has this council fought in the last 1,000 years?" The speaker paused. "None. Peace has held for 11 centuries. "And how many crises has the council solved on its own, without waiting for approval from committees and sub-councils and review boards?" Silence. A long one. "That is not a fair question," the speaker finally said. "It is the only question that matters," I said, "because from where I am standing, I see 41 worlds that have not made a single independent decision in over 1,000 years. Every choice runs through this chamber first. Every risk gets voted on before it is taken. You call that peace. I call it forgetting how to stand on your own." The Vashtar delegate leaned forward, wings flaring. "You speak as if independence were a virtue, and not the very thing that nearly destroyed your species before you left your own solar system." "It very nearly did," I admitted. "We fought each other for centuries before we learned better. But we learned it ourselves. Nobody outside our system taught us peace. We built it, broke it, and rebuilt it until it held. That is different from having peace handed to you by a council that makes every hard decision so you never have to." "You speak of Tau Ceti," the speaker said suddenly, and the shift in his tone told me he had been saving this for a moment, when it would hurt the most. 2 years ago, a raider fleet attacked your colony there. You did not file for council mediation. You sent ships instead. Explain that decision to this chamber." I felt my chest tighten, not from anger this time, but from memory. 41 names. I still knew every one of them. "By the time a mediation request cleared this council's process," I said, "the raiders would have stripped that colony down to bare rock and been 3 jumps away. So we did not file paperwork. We sent 6 ships, built by our own people, crewed by men and women who had never seen a real fight before that day. We drove the raiders off. We lost 41 people doing it. We buried them ourselves, mourned them ourselves, and never once asked this council to cover the cost. That, the Vashtar delegate said, voice rising, is exactly the disorder we are describing. Unauthorized engagement, unsanctioned loss of life. It is not disorder, I said, and now my voice was rising too, filling that huge cold room built for creatures who were not mine. It is ownership. When something threatens what belongs to us, we do not wait for 9 species to reach agreement. We act, and then we answer for it, to our own people, our own courts, our own dead. That is not chaos. That is responsibility that has not been handed away to somebody else. The speaker's many limbs went still, the way they do right before a difficult silence. You are suggesting this council has made its members weak, he said. I am suggesting this council has made decisions so its members never have to, I said. Tell me, when was the last time any species in this room built something that was not first approved, funded, and standardized by this chamber? When was the last time one of you took a risk that nobody voted on first? No answer came. Not from the speaker, not from the Vashtar, not from the long rows of delegates behind them, creatures with too many eyes, or too many legs, or gills instead of lungs, all of them silent, because none of them had an answer that did not sound hollow. You would stand outside our protection, the speaker finally said, outside our law, outside everything this council offers. We would stand for ourselves, I said. There is a difference, and I think somewhere in the last 1,000 years, this room forgot what that difference feels like. I could feel eyes on me from every direction, and for a moment nobody moved. Then a smaller voice broke the silence, coming from a delegate near the back I had not noticed before, an Osuni named Feya, with pale blue skin and wide, gentle eyes that looked almost sad. May I ask a question, Representative? She said quietly. Of course, I said. If your people refuse council law, refuse council protection, how do you expect to survive out there alone? The corridor you have settled is dangerous. Raiders, pirates, worse things beyond them. You cannot fight everything by yourselves forever. It was a fair question, and I gave it the honesty it deserved. We do not expect to fight everything alone forever, I said. We expect to build alliances the way people build trust, one choice at a time, not because a council forced the agreement onto paper. We will trade with you. We will talk with you. We will sit in rooms like this one and listen to your concerns, because that is what neighbors do for each other. But we will not hand over our fleet's decisions to a committee that meets once a season. We will not ask permission to defend our own colonies. That is not something we are willing to trade away, not for protection, not for comfort, not for a seat at this table. Feya nodded slowly, and something in her expression looked almost like respect, though I could not be certain with a face so different from my own. The speaker's translator crackled, adjusting to something it had clearly not been designed to process. So, Earth refuses membership, he said. It was not quite a question. Earth refuses to give away what makes it Earth, I said. There is a difference there too. I gathered the small stack of notes I had brought with me, notes I had barely needed, and looked around the chamber one last time. 41 worlds worth of delegates, staring down at the one species small enough to fit in their doorway and stubborn enough to walk back out of it without bending. You built peace by giving up your freedom to choose, I said, stepping back from the podium. We are still deciding what kind of peace we want, and we would rather get it wrong 100 times on our own than get it right once, because somebody else decided for us. I turned and walked toward the exit, my boots echoing across a floor built for feet that were not mine, past a gallery of beings who had nothing unified left to say. Behind me, the chamber stayed silent, and for the first time since I had walked in, that silence did not feel like judgment. It felt like the sound of a room realizing it had just met something it could not simply legislate away. Outside, the shuttle bay stretched wide and quiet under a sky full of unfamiliar stars, and my ship waited there, small and plain next to the polished vessels of 9 other worlds. I climbed the ramp without looking back, because there was nothing behind me that needed one more look. Ahead of me was home, unclaimed, unmeasured, and entirely ours to shape.